Hi, and welcome to part two. We're going to try and knock out the UI for this now so that we can actually see if our API endpoints work and, of course, build some lovely UI. Again, we're going to be using Tailwind with DaisyUI on top of it, so we don't have to do a lot of like custom CSS at all. In fact, we might not even have any traditional CSS, which is always just the best. Tailwind's great, and DaisyUI, yeah, just kind of makes Tailwind a lot more like reusable in a sense. It's essentially allows us to have things like classes for buttons or inputs, and it all gets a nice fancy styling. Let us show what we're up to. So yeah, we have our API endpoints here, and we're just gonna close everything because we're gonna kind of move to the front end now. So within our routes, we're gonna have a layout.svelte. So this is what came with it. It's already importing our app.css, which ultimately, if we open that, is really just importing Tailwind. We might have to put a couple custom things in here, especially if we want to actually theme DaisyUI. But let's actually just do a little bit more to the layout. So layout is basically like a container file that the page is going to have within it, and any sub pages will have as well, assuming they're rendering HTML. Like any page.svelte will basically use this. So what I just want to do here is really just wrap this in a div, and let's just grab this sort of thing here, just a very basic div to give this a BG base of 100. So this is actually a DaisyUI thing, and we haven't installed DaisyUI yet, so it's not going to do anything. But we will get the minimum height screen and the padding of 4. And let's just see if I am correct about that. We're just going to go right to the root page, and it looks like there's now padding. I was zoomed kind of weird, but let's just make sure. Yeah, it looks like there's some padding here. Everything looks great. Now we didn't get the BG base 100 because Tailwind doesn't know what that is. We need to actually add DaisyUI. So um, let me just remember how to install DaisyUI to SvelteKit. I don't think it's even like necessarily SvelteKit specific, but okay. So yeah, we've done this. We need to install DaisyUI. So let's just stop our dev server so we don't have to have multiple terminals. npm install DaisyUI. We'll just use the latest version, and that will get us something in our package.json. Um, Now our Tailwind, is this where does this go? Add to our Vite config. Okay, we're gonna open our Vite config, and we already have Tailwind, we already have SvelteKit. This is probably all good. And then yeah, we just have to go back to our app.css, and after importing Tailwind, we also are gonna add the plugin DaisyUI, and hopefully that's all we have to do. Let's get our server running again. npm run dev and refresh here. Now we actually have a bit of the styling. So what I really like about DaisyUI, one concept of it is um, instead of saying like, I want this background color, right? Like I want to do BG slate, whatever sort of thing. It's kind of like you have like a BG base at different levels. So 100 or 50, 100, 200, a few different things like that. And text-based content is, what the text should be. And this allows us to have like, in theory, multiple themes, a light mode, a dark mode, maybe even like some really fun modes. And we don't actually like set specific colors inside our UI. And instead, it's like we have primary colors, secondary colors, accents, that kind of stuff, which is just, a much better approach and the proper way to do things. We're also gonna have cool things like buttons. So for instance, let's get rid of all this stuff here. So we can do .btn, test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2. And let me go back to here, and we see we kind of have this button here. Not sure how well it's coming through on the compression, and actually let's zoom this a bit. I'm gonna give this one more zoom for good measure. But we kind of have a button here, and it has like a sort of a hover effect, and we can also do things like button dash primary. And you see, we'll actually get this autocomplete now that the plugin's been added to our extension. I am using the Tailwind. Let's see, what is the name of the extension? Enabled. It's probably just called Tailwind, right? Tailwind CSS. I'm using that, which gets us, the autocomplete for those kinds of things. Just super helpful. So now into button primary, we actually kind of get this colored button, and everything is good. So yeah, and probably we'll build this UI, and then once we kind of have some real UI instead of just a single fake button here, we will actually maybe play with some theming and stuff too, if there's still time, just to show how that can work, because the theming in DaisyUI is really awesome. All right, so let's get rid of that. This is our page.svelte. So this is kind of like our main dashboard. This will just really be like the list of all the um, uh, booking options, and showing whether they're already booked and all that kind of stuff. So let's see. We're going to start by adding a script here. We're going to be doing this client side, talking to our server through the API. Of course, you could do this in a different way where you actually use sort of like the page.server.ts or something like that, to actually like instead of doing it as an AJAX or an XHR call, it's actually being rendered server side, but it's just overkill for something like this. And feel free to do it on your own. So we're gonna first of all have an on mount, and that will auto import for us, luckily. And we actually want this to be async because we're going to be calling a function here. So what we're going to just use, we're going to be using built-in fetch. You could use Axios if you wanted, or I'm sure there's others, but those are the main two. But yeah, we're just going to use fetch here. So we're going to just do like res equals wait, and we want to run our fetch command, which is just a browser-based thing. Now keep in mind, if you're using fetch, there still is server-side rendering that happens even on a plus page dot svelte. And if this isn't inside an in mount, or you don't have it guarded with a browser sort of check, you will have an error because the server can't actually use fetch for some reason. It's a browser, it's a browser-based thing. And we want to call /API/slots, right? API/slots. So that will do the API call. Or really what that does is it starts the API call and really just like sends up the headers and stuff. The next thing we actually have to get is the JSON from that. So let's just call it like data. And here we need to await res.json. And you have to await it because this is actually when the real like API call happens. This is just kind of like the initial handshake. Here's the headers. Here's my potentially authentication token. Am I able to proceed? And then this is actually like, okay, I'm getting the data now. I'm getting the data now. So we need to have that. What we're also going to have is we're going to use the state rune here to have all of our slots. So let's have a let slots equal, and we'll use state here. And it'll just be an empty list at first. And we need to say what kind of type this is, I think. Is that what that's saying? It's probably, well, just saying never used. We're actually going to just set it here. So instead of making the data, we'll just set slots there. And it just has type any. We're going to fix that in a little bit. So yeah, we'll need a type for that. We can't just rely on the schema specifically. We actually are going to create a type. Let's freaking do that now. What we're going to do is open up our schema. And we're actually going to derive our type from this schema. Just makes it so that we're not, having to make a separate type that, we have to keep in sync with this. And let's see if this will work. So we're going to export a type just called booking slot, just like that. And what we can use is something called infer model. Infer, is that what it is? Oh, they're saying it's been deprecated, I think. Is that what that's saying? We'll see. Maybe it's not. I saw some weird faded out thing. We're going to infer model, and we're going to use type of booking slot. So that's just a reference to the schema itself. And I think that's all we have to do, except we are seeing, yeah, this is like a deprecated thing. What's it telling us to use instead? I imagine there's infer model. I saw something about like select. Infer model, infer select model, maybe? That would probably be it because it's like meant for when we're actually selecting the data. So yeah, let's just do that. And then over here, we should be able to just go booking slot, and it's specifically a list. And oh, what is this error? Type can only be used in TypeScript files. Right. We created a script tag, but we do want to do lang equals TS to then get all of our TypeScript stuff. So this is kind of cool because really like this is kind of like server-side code and this is client-side code, but we can still get the types and in fact many other things between the front end and the back end of our full stack application here. So yeah, it keeps things a lot more dry, and we don't really have to think about it as much. Okay, so I think that'll work. So let's get back to let's actually write the UI now because I think this is the main thing we need to actually the page is going to load. And in fact, let's test to make sure this is working. We'll just go back here and we'll open up the network inspector. Let's do this. What's probably the best for people at home? Well, let's just open this up. I go to fetch XHR, we'll refresh. So we do see the slots API call happening, and we should see a response of that data coming back. Great. Cool. So that's all good. Let us now start or continue making the actual UI. Okay, yeah, so let's just start with like an H1. We'll just call it time slots. Sure, whatever you want. And let's get this as some nice classes here. So we'll have a class of text to XL just to make it nice and big, and we'll make it bold, and we'll give it a margin bottom of 4 units, which that's not 4 pixels, that's 4 rems, I believe, or whatever the spacing is in that you've configured in Tailwind. Um, so there we have our lovely time slots thing right there. Very nice. Okay, then we're gonna make a grid. So I'll do dot grid, and our grid specifically is going to have 2 columns, calls of 2, and we're gonna give our columns a gap of 4, so that they're kind of spaced out. Then we're gonna loop through all of our slots, right? So we can do each slots as slot. So this is a reference obviously to our slots, and this is what it's going to be referred to in the loop. And then we have to end that loop, so let's not forget to do that. And here we are going to essentially have a list of these sorts of things. Now I've already kind of put something together for this that looks kind of cool, or hopefully will look kind of cool. And oops, missed that. And we'll make that in a minute. But I'll walk you through this. So we're just gonna have a button. It's gonna be a full width button. It's gonna justify between the stuff that's inside of it. So it's a flex item basically. And what we can do is we can actually have different. This is a cool way to do classes in Svelte, where we can say we're going to apply the class of button outline if this our argument is true. We're going to apply accent like this. It's just a lot better than having like a bunch of if statements and stuff. It's really nice. We do need a handle click function, so let's actually add that. And we won't actually make it yet, but let's just do handle click equals and we'll just make this a variable there. Oh, but we do need something to be passed in. I guess it's going to be a booking slot. Oh, I did it. I totally did it the Dart way. Sometimes I do that. And we just won't do anything yet, but at least we'll get that going. The other thing that I would like to have is sort of like a helper class that's going to give this a label. So we're going to make a function for that called slot label, and it also will use a slot of a booking slot, which is basically we're going to get the start. Oops, I messed up something here. This equals this. There's so many ways to make a function in JavaScript. No, there's still something wrong here. No, I don't think so. I think it's just I have this untreated line. There we go. So we're going to get the start, which is going to be, we're just basically going to make a date object, but we're going to pass in the slot.starts date because it's just a string when we get it back from the database. It's a string that can be parsed very nicely by just passing it in like that. And what we want to actually return is start.toLocale toLocale time string, I think. And we can pass in some arguments here. The first will be what locales we care about, in this case, none. And we want to kind of format things in a nice way. So we can put in hour, for instance, and use 2-digit. Oops, 2-digit. We lost the, I want the autocomplete. There we go. 2-digit and minute. We can have also as 2-digit. And I think that's all we need. So this just kind of like formats it in a nice way. We could, of course, do this all in line, but I kind of like it's a pretty big thing. Okay, so let's see if this is working. Wow, look at that right there. So we have sort of, although there seems to be something wrong here because we should have some like nice button stuff happening. Sometimes I'm guessing this is just, I'm just going to do it and then I'll explain. I'm going to restart my dev server. No, I'm not. That's so weird. Let me make sure the class is actually being applied. So we have button width, just so but yeah, it's button outline. Oh, they're all outlined because none of them are actually available, or none of them, they're all they're all available. If we, for instance, change this just temporarily to primary, we would see them like that. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Now, this doesn't look amazing to me. Um, and we could, we could probably make this a bit better. For instance, we need some more padding in this. I think it's just, I mean, I'm kind of testing this on a pretty small screen. Let's just see what this actually looks like. Or let's open up this. This is going to be done on an iPad in my fake world. So let's use just an iPad Air, for instance. So it looks a little bit better like that. We can play with that, but this is cool, and we can click on these. They don't do anything yet, but they are, they are there. Now, something I kind of think would be useful. We don't actually have a date in here because it's just the time. We'll probably come back to that where we maybe group these things into the different dates that are available. The up to today, tomorrow, in case people are booking in advance. But whatever, this is fine. We have all of our 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. and oh yeah, right, it's a column, so it's actually 9, 9:30, da da da. So let's get our handle click working. So the idea here is two different options. In the case that it is not booked yet, we want to basically bring the this admin person to a screen that they can then set up the booking. In the case that it is already booked, we're just going to go to a detail view of it. So in order to do that, in our handle click, although we don't have these yet, we're going to go if slot dot status is equal to available. You get that nice autocomplete there. We're going to do one thing. Otherwise, we're going to basically go to the detail one. So to do this, we can just use the go-to, which is built into SvelteKit. And we haven't made these yet, but we're going to have something like called slot slash, and then we'll use the slot.id. And of course, to do the string interpolation like that, we are going to wrap it in these backticks instead. And then, yeah, we'll have like something like a URL called book, just to book it. Otherwise, this will be kind of similar, just won't have the book after it. So just be going to the detail screen of that. So let's see if that works. It obviously won't work because we haven't made those screens, but it should bring us somewhere to a 404 page. Beauty. All right, let's make, I guess, our next page. So let's do the booking flow first so that we can actually test this properly because we need to book one before we can see the detail screen. So we don't, not in the API, but inside routes itself, we are going to make a folder called slot, and then it's the slot ID. So we need to make a new folder that is just called ID with the placeholder square brackets and new file inside here. Sorry, actually a new folder because we're doing slash book. So we do the folder like that, and then we make a page.svelte for this. Okay, so this will basically be us going to, and let's just test this, make sure this works. Test 1, 2, 3, cool. And if we now click on one of these, we should see test 1, 2, 3. So we're brought to, slot slash 1 slash book, but also slot slash 9 slash book will, essentially do the same thing, just with the 9. Okay, cool. So we have that. On this page, yeah, we're gonna have to do some, I'm gonna close some stuff just to make it a little bit cleaner here, but let's have a script. And this time we will actually remember to do lang equals ts so we don't see those weird errors. And let's go do our on mount again, because when this mounts, we're gonna get data from the server. Again, this is something you could do in a page.server.svelte, actually do the API call or get the data like directly from the database if you really wanted to. But I'm just showing this in a way that will totally work for our use case. So here again, it's pretty similar. We're going to do response equals await, and we're going to use fetch again. And the difference here is it's going to be API slash slot slots slash, and we should have done this with backticks because I want to put a variable in here. Gosh darn. And here we will actually put in the ID, which we don't have yet. Also, we need to make this an async function, so we can use that. So how do we get the ID from the URL? How do we get the ID from the URL? Yeah, so what we're going to want to do is first import in page from app/state. Now, if you in older versions of the docs, or especially with like LLMs and stuff, it might say like import it from app/store, but that's actually been deprecated. I think it still works in this, but like it's not how you're supposed to do it now. And then the next thing we do is we make something called ID, and it's just going to be equal to page.params.id. And what's cool about this, we actually get the autocomplete, right? I can do .id, and it's actually knows that because of it being called this. If this was called slug, it would autocomplete us with a slug. So kind of nice. But now we have access to our ID and everything is good. And then we, of course, have to set it somewhere. So we'll do the same kind of thing that we did over here. I'm going to just grab this same code. And we're going to have, but this will just be slot, booking slot, and its state will be null, which means this will probably throw an error because it might not be that. We also need to, I think this is how we would do it. Booking slot. Oh, we need to import it. That's where that error is coming from. So slot, it is going to be null at first, but then we will, get it. And we can now just go slot equals rs.json. But we have to await that. We see we have an error, and now we don't. Cool. So yeah, we have that now, and let's make some UI here. So let's have, let me just actually open up the other one just so we can kind of keep some stuff kind of similar here. So let's do the same kind of thing. We'll have a thing like this, but instead this will be, book slot. And it might be nice under this to actually, um, maybe I'll add that after. I'm thinking like we could say like the time or something, but let's just get this main stuff together. So let's have just a div that like basically spaces everything nicely. And oh yeah, we can just do the date. I'm going to pull this thing over here. This is just simple, kind of like what we did before. We're just taking this. Now the problem is slot could potentially be null. So let's actually essentially wrap this whole thing where we can say, what is it, number sign if slot, and we can just go like this. We could, of course, have an else that's like a loading screen or something, but let's see. It's probably going to be fast enough that we don't really have to worry about that. So now we won't have those errors, right? Because we're already saying like this won't execute if slot is null. All right, cool. So this will, show us some stuff. So let's make sure that this is working. We'll just click a random one, the 9 a.m. Yep, that looks all right to me. And after that, we need to have a bit of a form here. So we're not going to do this with like form actions and the server-side integration. We're just going to keep plowing away, working with our API directly. So we don't have to even technically wrap this in a form. You could for like, accessibility purposes and stuff. But we're just going to have a few inputs here, which I'm just going to paste in. So underneath this, we're going to have a customer name. We have to actually set these variables. So let's actually set those up right now. All right, so we're going to have a what was the name of this? Name equal state. And in this case, it'll be just an empty string. And we can also have one for phone. Name and phone. And then we need let's import in the goto, because I forgot to do that. And let's make a save function, which for now, we're just going to say const save equals, something like that, just so we don't have the errors here. And I forgot that we're not supposed to do this way anymore in SvelteKit. Okay, cool. Let me just actually close everything and reopen this. Okay, so we have that. We have a save button, and the save is going to do something. Let's just see if this actually looks good. Ooh, doesn't look great. It should be like the DaisyUI should be getting our nice, lovely inputs. Is this another one of those instances of it just not generating those classes yet? There, see, sometimes you just have to restart your dev server to get the Tailwind updates. I don't know why. It works a lot, like 90% of the time, but then sometimes you're fighting with it. You're like, why is nothing changing? And just restart the dev server. Okay, cool. So we have a customer name, we have a phone number, then we can book a slot. Now everything is good. So let's actually make this do something. So first of all, this should be an async function. So I think we just put async here because we want to essentially await a fetch of, and in this case, it's going to be API/slots. And again, I should have done the backticks. Stop giving me two. And we want to use that same ID we want to use slot.id because we have access to slot.id. So that's the endpoint we're hitting, but very importantly, we need to pass in some options here. This is no longer just a GET request. We, for instance, want the method equals post. Is that right? Oh, sorry, this will actually be put. We're not creating something, we're actually updating an existing thing, technically. We also have this issue here, so that we can just go something like if not slot, return. This should never really happen because we're calling this in a place we're already guarding it. But in case we, use it, let's just have that. And then we get rid of that error where this could be null. So just a quick little, if not slot, get out of here, don't do anything. We could, of course, show an error, console log something, but I'm pretty sure we will never run into this edge case. Okay, headers, we want to do application JSON. So content, is it what it's content dash type? We have to say, hey, this is going to be JSON. So we do application/JSON. And then we actually have to put in our body. Now, when we're doing a JSON request with just straight up fetch, of course, if you're using Axios or something, it handles a lot of this for you. We actually need to stringify. So we use JSON.stringify, and we actually pass in now a JavaScript object here, which we will create by using something like customer name. And in this case, it will be name. Oops, I just clicked my emoji button. What else do we want? Customer phone. And this is just all based on the schema. Like if I open up the schema now, you'll see what I'm doing. We're having customer name, customer phone, that kind of stuff. Although technically this is based off of what our API is expecting, which happens to be just following the conventions of the schema, which is what you should do. You shouldn't have like things named differently. Very hard to, very easy to make mistakes. Phone, and then we'll set a status of booked because we're basically saying this has been booked. Okay, so we're gonna wait that, and then once we do that, we want to do a go to back to just the root page, right? Because hey, you're logged in, or this is completed, cool, it's done. And because of the way this will work, we're going to a new page. I'm pretty sure it's going to call that API again, hopefully, the list view, and we'll see like the updated state. Okay, so this is everything we should need for this. Let's just go back to the beginning here, just to make sure everything's good. We're gonna go here, we're gonna use Tyler, and we're gonna use my phone number of 123. And oh, okay, something did not seem to work. So let's do some debugging here. We're doing this API slot ID. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the go to and just do T 123 2313 whatever, and we're gonna look at our network inspector, which I'm going to do. What do we get? Status booked. Like it looks like that worked. What happened before? So let's just go back to the home screen again. Oh, is it? Do we have logic that's making it so it doesn't show up? That seems to be what's happening here. Are they getting oh, they're here. This was working. It's just putting them at the bottom. I forgot that we did that, or I don't remember doing that. Let's see our logic. We're just going through slots. It must be in the API call. They must just be coming back in that order. So let's go to API slots. Yeah, it's like ordering. Oh, it's the get. Select from here. They ordering by. It's almost like they're ordering by the updated ad or something. But there is no updated ad. What is happening here? Okay, so we'll go to our API. This is where we do the guest, and we're going to just add an order by. Order by, we want to use, so for ordering, we actually take the schema again, booking slot, and we pass in the thing we want to order by. And I think let's order by starts at, right? The start state, because that just makes the most sense. So let's save that. And now we should see it up here. Everything's great. I'm actually not sure what it's ordering by. I think like maybe Postgres, if you don't, I've never seen this before, but like, because usually I already have like a default ordering, but it seems like Postgres was automatically like ordering by like an updated at field, which isn't even a field we have. It's something probably like just metadata of the database. Throw a comment in if you understand what happened there. But yeah, let's just try booking one more. I'm gonna pick 1 p.m. and whatever. And book, oh yeah, we got rid of the go to. Damn, I wanted to do the whole flow, but they would basically just bring us back here and everything's good. Okay, so we're good on that. Let's put our go to back, which was in our booking thing. So we'll redirect back here and all will be well. Okay, so the next thing is we want to have a detail view. Right now, if we click on it, oh, sorry, that wasn't one that would work. If we click on one that's booked, we're actually going to be brought to just slot/9, but we haven't made that page yet. So basically right in the ID, we're going to also have a page.svelte. And now if we do test 4, 5, 6 and refresh that, we got it. So let's do some stuff here. So this, I believe, is going to be pretty similar in some ways to this page here. So we're going to have, well, we need to wrap this in a script lang ts. And we're going to have this booking slot. Let's import that. We're probably going to need the on mount. We're going to need the page. Yeah, we're going to need probably all this stuff. We'll probably want the go to. Let's just grab whatever we think we might need. All right, and there's our slot, which is going to be null. And basically, we can make the same API call because we're just trying to get the detail here. And ID, oh, yeah, we need to do that as well. So look, this is pretty similar. We could probably make some kind of like helper function if we really wanted to do this, but whatever. This is totally fine. Okay, so we have that. We're going to want a couple helper functions here, which I'll just stub in right now. We're going to have a const function called clear. And this is basically like, hey, that person canceled or something. So it's going to be, it will be async, so we'll get that, but let's just do this for now. And similarly, we're going to have one for like remove, like say, hey, you know, the the person who is required to do this can no longer do it at this time. Like if this was like for booking a restaurant, oh, there was a restaurant had to be closed for this day. This will allow you to like fully remove the booking slot, right? As opposed to just clearing it out and making it available for someone else. So we'll just have those stubbed in there, and that's cool. And then let's go over here and we'll grab this same kind of thing. I think we should probably wrap it in this if slot thing again. If, and this will say, I guess like slot details. Let's just make sure that all of our stuff is working so far. So we should see slot details, meaning our API call must have at least worked because we got a slot. Great. And what do we want to do in here? Well, we'll just show all the details about it. So I'm just going to paste something in because this would be annoying to write out. And we're just putting in a div with a space Y and text small. So this will kind of make it, look pretty-ish. I mean, maybe the text small is overkill. We could probably make this prettier. We'll come back to that though. And then we're going to want some helper buttons here, which will work with these two functions. So we're going to have, why do I keep doing that? On click equals this. So we're going to have the clear booking, the remove book or delete slot, which will do the remove, and just a cancel or a back button. So let's see our lovely code here. There we go. It looks okay. I think we could definitely make this prettier. And also there is for sure another issue here. We are not getting the spacing of the Y2. Like you can tell, these are touching each other. I need to. This is something I will figure out, and if someone else doesn't, of why this sometimes is happening. See, this already looks prettier, just like this. Now we could make this even nicer. For instance, the code. I kind of want to show the code with a hashtag in front of it, because it's like, I'm just for fun. I wanted to like look like a char field or a hex code, and we can also put this in a span. I know this is like super important. And I'm just going to give this a class of uppercase. So it gets all uppercased. There we go. There's the time, there's whatever, this is the customer, this is their phone number, and this is the status of whether they're booked. Cool. And yeah, so we have that. Let's make the functions actually do stuff. So we'll start with clearing it. And we already made the API endpoint for this. And just to remind you, this is in the previous video, obviously, we have the clear endpoint here, which is basically just doing an update to the data to null out these two things and put it back to available, which is what we want to do. So in order to do that, we're going to hit that endpoint. Wes equals fetch API, or let's do this. What am I doing here? Oh wait. Oh wait, I shouldn't be just making this available. We're just awaiting a fetch of slash API slash slots slash and then the ID. So the ID we get from our slot.id. Oops. We could get it from the slot.id. We could also just get it from the ID, and then we don't have to have this like check. So even if the data doesn't load, which I mean, we won't have these buttons, neither here nor there. And we want to specifically say we're going to hit that clear endpoint, right? So we're passing in the ID slash clear. And we'll do that. And then obviously when it's cleared, we want to go to the primary page again. So let's test out this. Oops. So let's just go back. I could use the back button. And let's just pick this. Let's pick the first one. So I'm going to go clear booking. Oh, did not work. It looks like we had an error, a 405 error. Oh, because this should be a post. That's why. It tried to do a get request and we got back a bunch of errors. So we need to make sure in our options we actually say method. Oops, method post. I like to use caps for this. I don't know why. Okay. Oh shit. This is the wrong place. This should be in here. That would have done something really weird. Okay. So we'll go to this one, clear it, and now it's cleared. All right, and then deleting a slot. So this is like, hey, this slot should never even exist anymore. We have an endpoint for this too, right? And let's do something super fancy here. We're going to wrap this in a confirm. This is just a built into the JavaScript window object, browser basically, and we can just say something like delete this or delete. Let's say, are you sure? Now wait, confirm has I think a title too. No, it's just a message. Are you sure you want to? Are you sure you want to delete this slot? So this is actually, even though it is kind of asynchronous, the browser handles it synchronously. In fact, when you have confirms or alerts, while they're open, like nothing actually is going to be happening on the page unless it's already something that's running in a thing. So we don't have to await this. It awaits automatically. So we're wrapping an if because this will return either true or false if the person confirmed. And in this case, we're going to kind of do the same thing as we did here. The difference is we are just hitting this with the delete method because remember we made the endpoint somewhere in this. It would be this one here. If you come with delete, we're just going and fully deleting it. Okay, so let's test this out, including our confirm. So I'll pick the first one here. We'll go delete slot. Are you sure you want to delete the slot? I'm gonna click cancel just to make sure that worked. Okay, and now we'll do this with okay. And we come back and it is fully gone. So now there's no longer even a 9 a.m. slot. Woo, we are good. Let's clear this one. Love it. Okay, awesome. Now I think this, even clearing a time slot, it's probably worth a confirm. So let's actually wrap this whole thing in this as well. Except we'll say, are you sure you want to um, reset, maybe clear this slot? Just to avoid people making a mistake. Because so let's just test this out. Tie 1, 2, 3, book now, and we'll go back here and we'll do the clear booking, cancel, clear booking. Click OK. All right, everything seems to be good. We are off to the races. Now, next, I think we want the ability to create a new, fully new slot. So let's do that next. Okay, so first thing, let's go back to our main page, which would just be this page.svelte. And we have an H1 here. Let's wrap this just in a flex box. And we'll do, I guess it would be justify between, if I'm not mistaken, for this. Because I want to add a button here. Dot button. And we'll say create new slot, or let's just say new slot. And actually, this shouldn't be a div. This will be an a tag because its href is going to be, I haven't thought about that yet, but I think it'll be slash slot slash new, something like that. We don't have that yet, but let's see if this worked. There it is. I will make this a, button primary. And I think we also then need some kind of spacing between this. So let's just do an MB2 or something. Yeah, that looks all right. And let's align the item center, although align middle, is that what it is? That might already be happening. Let me just use my little measurement tool here from the middle of this. Yeah, that already looks pretty good. And I think, we could probably have like a divider, which is a class of Daisy UI. So we have that. And if we have the divider, I don't think we actually need the MB2 because it's automatically giving us some margin. Still, that doesn't look great. Let's just not do that and let's give it a little bit more margin. Cool. Works for me. Good enough. Okay, so this will go to this page that, oh, this is a problem because we are kind of reusing, although I think this will be fine because if we create this, it'll take precedence. So inside slot, we're going to want a new folder called new. So we have the placeholder thing for ID, but I believe this will take precedence because there's more specificity. We'll just have this page.svelte and let's just go test. Favorite word. I should have like a button on my keyboard that just says test, and then I would save a lot of time. Okay, so we have this page now. So this is for creating a new one. So we shouldn't need an on mount to get any data because we don't need to get data, but we will need to, have a function to create a slot. But let's make the UI first. I'm just, again, going to paste in something that I think looks okay. And let's get our script tag here, lang ts, and let's make some variables for these different things. So we're going to have, we'll have something called date, and I guess date is actually going to be a string in this case. So we'll use state, oops, equals state empty string, and let's have, what do we need? Start time and end time. So they'll just be like these empty sort of things. And we're going to want a function called, what do we have it in the HTML? Create slot. Equals this. This will be async, so let's just put that in now so we don't forget. And it's not going to do anything yet. Okay, we have some little warnings here. We need to have a control, an ARIA control. What is the solution is to disable this, which honestly in our case is probably fine because this isn't meant for like a real world application. But I believe we do. Is it ARIA? Is it ARIA role? No, ARIA label. Let me just see. What is the actual warning? Form label must be associated with the control. Oh, must be with the control. Okay, so we do for equals date. And then we just have to give this an ID of date. This is just telling the, for screen readers and stuff like that this label is associated with this. So we'll do that. I'll do that real quick. All right, tediously added in this. So yeah, when you have a for, it's just maps to a particular ID. We're not going to use the IDs other than for this accessibility right here. So let's just see how this is looking. So cool, we have this form and we're just using like, browsers now have a type instead of just like, type of input or text, sorry, or like number or stuff. There's also like things for dates and times. So you actually get the browser, calendar picker and stuff, which is nice. And we have a start time sort of thing we can do, this, and this, and end time, and everything's great. Yay. Okay, cool. So let's actually do the create slot. What's our other button? Yeah, the cancel is just going to bring us back. Let's make sure this works. Yep. We are doing great. Okay, so creating a slot. First of all, we'll do a little bit of validation here. And we probably should have validation on the other one too. So let's go. If we don't have a date, so if the date is like empty or null or whatever, if we don't have a start time or we don't have a end time, we're going to return, and we're just going to return like an alert. And really, we are returning alert. I'm just going to do this kind of more simply. We'll just go like this, and we'll actually just do an alert message that says invalid data, invalid form data, and return out so that we know we have all those things. Then we need to take we're going to be getting this as a string, right? So we need to convert this in a very, we need to turn this into a date object. So to do that, we can simply just go starts equals new date, and we actually pass in the date that comes from here, and then t, and then the time here. And t, I think this is like some time zone sort of thing. And the same for ends. We'll just call it ends, and the only difference here, we're still leaving the same date. We're not handling like something that starts at like 11:45 and goes till 12:15. This is it could be done. You would just need like 2 date pickers, I guess. And then we'll have another check because we want to make sure that the end isn't happening before the start. That would be very confusing. So if starts is greater or equal to, and you can do greater and equal to operators on dates, which is really nice. And in here, we'll return as well, and we'll just do an alert that says alert something like end time must be after start time, of course. If all that is good, we're good enough to send this up to the server. So we're going to do a fetch. We are going to go to that endpoint we made very early on, which is just a post to slots. So let's put our content, or what are we doing here? It's a method post. We want to have those headers again because we're going to be sending up some JSON. So headers content dash type application slash JSON. Then we also want to send up a body, which we've done before, json.stringify, and here we'll pass in whatever we want to have for that. And really, we just need to pass up. Well, I'm going to double check, but I think it just starts and ends. So let's go to our API, go to just the root one where we have our post request. It is looking for, yeah, data.starts and data.ends. So we can just pass up starts, and ends. Now, fun fact in JavaScript is if you're in an object, if your key and your value variable name are the same, you can actually shorthand this just by going like this. So this is the same thing, just a little bit cleaner, I guess. And then after this goes, we do a go to back to the start. Okay, so let's test this out. Everything looks good. Let's test out some stuff here. So first of all, let's just try submitting it like this, and we got invalid form data, as we would have hoped. Then let's actually put in some data here. So let's just pick today. Is that today? Yep. And then let's try to make this, let's try and break this. We'll do, 4:05 p.m. as the start time, and the end time, let's do 3:05 p.m. Create slot. End time must be after start time. Yep, that makes sense. Oops, that was my mistake. I definitely didn't do it on purpose. And we'll make this 5:05 now. And we'll create the slot. And now we should see one. I forgot what we did. It was like 4:05. It was some weird weird one. 4 p.m. Yeah, there it is. 4:05 p.m. right there. So we made it. Everything's good. Okay, cool. This is mostly what we need. Now I do, like I said, I want to do a couple more things. So let me sort of figure out some stuff here, and I'll come back with my findings just to kind of clean this up a little bit and make it more like sort of a date-based organization. All right, I think I have a plan here. So yeah, I want to kind of group these by things so that we can see the date, because right now we don't even show the date in any way, which is other than going to this page here, you can kind of see it, but that would be annoying. We don't have to change anything server side. We can do this in our case completely we're not doing like pagination or like requesting particular dates or anything like that. So let's go back to for the first page we made, which is just our page.svelte. And we're going to have to do some very exciting things here. So previously we were just getting our slots, just like this. But we're going to now make this something called data, because we're gonna do something to it before we actually set it, which to do. And then ultimately we would, still make slots equal to data or something. But let's just have that there. But we're going to make a little helper function here that's going to group things. So let's see. We're going to make. I feel like this is more like a util function and shouldn't be in here, because in theory, you could need this somewhere else. So we're going to make a function. We're going to call it group slots by date. And this will accept just an entire list of slots, which is our booking slot, but it'll be a list. And it's going to return something else, but we'll come back to that. And yeah, we can use a reduce function here, which is kind of a cool way to work with lists of data. So we're going to take that list of slots and we're going to reduce it. And we're going to have ACC here and slot. Basically, the reduce function. How does this work again? But there's callback function. This is what we're passing in right now. Okay, so what do we do here? We want to get a date key. So we're gonna go date key equals slot dot starts dot to date string. So we're just gonna basically convert the date to a string, and it will be like unique. Anything that's on this day will be the same. Then we take our ACC, which is this is called our accumulator, I think is why I like to call it that, because this is what we're going to be building up, our return data to. And we want to take the date key. And this is kind of a cool JavaScript operator. I forget what it's called, but it's essentially something that will, instead of us checking if that already exists, it will only execute it if that doesn't exist, if that makes sense. So we wouldn't want to just always set AC date key to empty, because if there was already something in it, we would lose that value. Basically doing these sort of like double bar and whatnot will only create it if it doesn't exist already. Then we know it exists, so we can actually go this dot push. And in this case, we want to actually push the entire slot itself. And then we want to return ACC. Now we do have some errors here. I think it's because these are like of type any. Oh, did I do this backwards? hang on. Yeah, and the reason we're having this error is because when you do reduce, it's assuming that your like accumulator is going to be the same as the input. So it's expecting this to be a list, and you can't do this. But we can actually use a second parameter here where we say we can cast this to as a record. It's going to be a record, which is basically like a dictionary of type string on the left. So the keys will be string, but the values will be an array of booking slots. And as soon as we have that, we no longer have these errors. So it's fun little thing we can do here. So now what we would do is we have our data, and we could do something like basically import this in. Oh, did I not make this? Maybe I didn't save it. Group slots by date. Oh, maybe I'll get, there we go. It knows what it is now. So we take the data, and let's actually just make another variable up here. We'll call it grouped slots, and it's going to be equal to a record, basically this exact same thing here. Is this not, wait, oh, sorry. Group slots is this, and it's going to be just initially as a this, but we will use state for this and pass in that. So it's going to be initially just an empty record, really like a dictionary. And then we can just go group slots equals this, because that returns that type. And actually, like, I don't think we even care about slots anymore. You know, once we've done this, we will just get rid of this. Now, for that to work, we are now going to have to update our UI, obviously, to go through this. So we'll still have, you know, our same header and stuff. We'll still have this. But instead of looping initially through our slots, because that doesn't exist anymore, we're going to loop through the grouped slots. And because group slots is not an array, it is a dictionary, or really a record, we actually have to use something called object.keys for each object.keys of the grouped slots. And in this case, we can do an array of the date itself, because that's the key, and the day, and let's just call it slots in this case. So that gets us like sort of a loop of just the groupings, right? And now what we could do is we could have like an H3 or something like that, that essentially has the date, so the key itself. And let's give this some nice styling. So let's do text large, font semi-bold, MT6 to give it some spacing, and MB2. Now we can't look at this yet because we need to now loop through one more thing. So now we kind of do that slot thing that we had before. We can do each, in this case, slots as slot, just so we had, but now we're talking about this slot right here. Oh, why is slot a string? We'll have to look into that in a minute. But let's finish off this loop. Maybe that's just the problem here. We also need an each loop there. Okay, so for some reason it thinks that date is a string and slots is a string, but oh, maybe I did this wrong. Oh, yeah, this is just looping through the keys. We want to loop through the entries, which gives us both of those things. So now this is a date, and this is, you know, a what we wanted it to be. All right, so let's see if this worked. I should probably save the file, and let's go back here, and we have an internal server error. What's the error? What? You would think I would see the error here if it's a server error. Let's go to our console. Module crypto has been externalized for browser compatibility. Cannot access crypto analytes in client code. Why are we grabbing it in client code now? Oh, I know why. It's because now we're importing in lib.utils. So maybe what I should do is just move, let's have like a sort of a safer utils. So let's just put it in server, utils.ts, and I'm going to just paste the stuff in. We don't need that anymore. So here's our generate hex code. We're going to remove it from here and remove it from here. So now this is like browser safe. And we will have some errors in our project because we were originally importing from here. So where did we do this? Probably in this file here. Yeah, generate hex code. So let's import this. Great. And there was one other place. Let's see. I'm pretty sure there's one other one. Oh yeah, in the seeding script at least. Seed is importing generate. So I think it's just going to be now in utils. No, // utils, I think. Yeah, that one. And this one, we already have it in the server utils. Okay, let's try again. Time slots. Okay, oh, type slot start, slot.starts.to date string is not a function. All right, we don't have an error anymore. I just changed it to toString instead of to date string. I'm not sure why I did that. This is weird. This doesn't seem right. Let's review our logic here. So, okay, so we have the group slots. Maybe we should inspect that. So something you can do in Svelte that's kind of cool is the inspect rune. And basically anytime this value changes, we will get it in the console. So let's go here and we have a thing here. And yeah, it's clearly not grouping them. Oh, it's because it's when I change it to string, we only want we want them to be grouped by date. So what? How do you do that again? Okay, we're gonna try it this way. Starts, we'll get the date from it so that we're like kind of ignore the time, and then we'll convert it to a string. All right. Okay. Get date is not a function. Oh my goodness. Okay. We will figure this out. Okay, so I think what we have to actually do here, this is kind of we need to actually convert these properly to a date. It thinks it's a booking slot, but I believe because these are coming back as strings, we're having that issue. So let's actually make a constant called slots, and it's basically going to be data.map. And in this case, we'll have the slot itself. And what we want to do is return that slot, but we want to actually override starts as wrap it in a date. Slot.start. Is it start or starts? What is this saying? Is it, yeah, that's fine. We'll just make it any. Or is it new date? Probably new date. And then is it sorry, is it starts or is it it starts and same with ends. And this will just, make this work better for us. Probably better ways to do this, but and then instead of passing in the data raw, we're actually going to pass in slots. So this is basically just normalizing it to the way you want. And then if we go back to our util here, we should be able to use that to date string because now it is actually a date object. Basically, our type was telling it was a date object, but when it was in runtime, it wasn't actually a date object, hence the issues. Okay, cool. So the only other thing that's wrong here is we sort of have this column thing still happening, which I meant to get rid of. So where do we have that? We have a grid, we have a columns. I should just be able to do, gap y. Let's just see how that looks. That's not apparently or space. What is it? What is the space y4? Because we're not going to do this as a grid anymore. We're just going to have them right across the thing. And now, yeah, we should have all these great things. Wicked. Now, I just want to make this just a little bit prettier. So we have a badge, but let's make it uppercase as well. So we kind of get that. That's kind of cool. And let's actually make it badge primary or something. Available. Let's do badge secondary. And we could make that dynamic based on the type and stuff like that, but I'm not going to worry about that at this moment. Or maybe we should. What if we did this? And instead of doing button, we would just do badge for all of these. And we'll get rid of the badge secondary, but we'll still keep the uppercase. So available. Now, if I was to book this one, we now see booked, which is fine. I mean, maybe we should make, when it is booked, make this primary so that it stands out a little bit more. Yeah, that looks cool. Um, Cool. Yeah, so that's basically it. I mean, there's a few more things we could do here. We could, of course, have some validation when we're actually creating. We have the validation on a new slot, but we didn't really do any validation in this booking form. But you could follow the same thing and do it. We could have like a login form to make this, more secure and have some like API credentials. Again, something we could totally do, but I don't think is necessary for this tutorial. And some other stuff is like, yeah, being able to update the status of something. So that's something we might want to do where if we picked one that was existing, we have clearing and deleting, but it might be nice to make this status option something like they were a no-show, mark as no-show, or whatever, if we want to do that. So yeah, a few other things you could do, but I don't think there's anything new to do that. Everything's kind of been covered here. All right, just wanted to add a couple things to this video at the end. I spent a bit more time off camera, just improving this a little bit, and I figured why not just share it with you guys, and it will obviously be in the code, so it might be confusing if you're like, I didn't see Tyler do this. So first and foremost, some UI updates we did. I ended up making the slots have the start and end time in that, and I got rid of like the available here unless there was something booked. So when you book, we're good. So nothing crazy there. And we're brought to this. I also added some breadcrumbs, so you can like from here kind of easily go back to the details or go back to home throughout everything. You can look at the code for how we did that. It's pretty basic. So yeah, now we have the name there. I also realized there was no way to delete a time slot unless it was already booked. Like we had this delete button here, but an empty one didn't have the delete button, so we just added it. It's just the exact same thing. We have that. I also made the detail screen a little bit nicer, so it's kind of like using these like DaisyUI list elements in a 2 columns. Um, and then the code's kind of just this big thing here that lets you, see it again, which we did have before. But I say most importantly, and this way we'll walk through how it works. We now have we now have this behind some kind of authentication. So for instance, it's just a password-based authentication. It's not like a username login. It's just an environment variable. So basically, I have an environment variable in my env, just the admin password, which is something we need now. And you would set it to something more secure on your real server. I'm hosting this on Vercel, by the way, but you could host it in anything that, hosts Node, basically, because SvelteKit is Node under the hood. But I highly recommend Vercel. It's really easy, and the build times are fast. But yeah, if we try and type in the wrong password, we get this. And if we do this, we're brought here. Now it is a very secure login. You have to have that. It then sets like a session cookie that identifies it as someone that has allowed to have permissions. And basically everything with the app, whether it's the UI, or even the API endpoints, in case someone like somehow has access at some point and figures out like, oh, here's the API routes, and I could just like, even though the UI I can use Postman to do this, we are blocking it. So just to walk through this really quickly, we have a login page. This is the simple form that has that, enter your password and whatever, and it just goes to the API login. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Which is the new API route we added. So we have the login route. And basically what this does, it checks that the submitted password that comes from the request.json is that environment variable there that we can just get by going into the private static environment stuff. And if it's not, we just throw an error and just tell them they're unauthorized. Otherwise, if all is good, we set a cookie and we, send success equals true. Sure. Very good. Now, while we're here, we also made a login. I made a login endpoint, and all it does is really delete that cookie and ends up returning like a 204. It's all good, but there's no content. That's what 204 means. So we have that, which is cool. Now, the magic of this is what's inside the hook. So this is a new file added, hooks.server.ts. And basically, we have some public paths because we want anyone to be able to come to the login and also hit API/login because they're not going to be logged in to do those things. But assuming they're not, basically, if they're not auth, then we can check like if they're, the cookie auth is true. We can then check, if not is auth and not is public, we basically go and, if, send back this unauthorized thing right here. This is when it starts with API. So we basically send back like, an API response saying that. But in the case that they're trying to hit a URL and they're unauthorized, we actually go back and redirect them to the login page, and then we resolve the event. So this is just like middleware basically that sort of exists and glues in every request, whether it's like an HTTP request through the browser of like UI, or like an API call with JSON. This will get run through. So yeah, just kind of wanted to add those little things to my explanation of what we've built here today. I did, for astute people, um, I did. I ended up reworking the seeding script, just to something that I think is more real use case instead of like determining random things. Basically have sort of like the start and end time slots, and we just kind of loop through them and create them. So nothing too different other than we got rid of like the randomization and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of the update that I'm just throwing in at the end, editing into the end of this video. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed and learned a few things. I definitely did, and we'll see you in the next one. Please like and subscribe if you came this far. Share with your friends, and we'll see you guys again. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you again.